This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details. Just in case you missed it, it's the top 5 sports talkers of the day. Now, it's time for Dan Barreiro's Top 5 at 5. Brought to you by Gutter Helmet of Minnesota. Never clean your gutters again. Learn more at gutterhelmetmn.com.
For the record, Guardsy is in Vegas. Big Ten, you think Big Ten Media Day, you think Vegas, right? Everybody does. So that's what's going on today. And I think tomorrow is the day that PJ speaks. But Guardsy is out today and tomorrow, back at training camp with me on Thursday, our first day at Vikings training camp. So Brett Blakemore is in that chair with plenty of time to spread your wings. Where do you want to begin?
Don't you think Big Ten Media Day is going to lose some of its luster being in dull old Vegas, where it could have been in Indianapolis, Indiana? Come on.
It's the way it should be. It's where it should be every year.
Yeah, exactly. I guess we'll start here.
Time now for the obligatory Kevin Fallness Minnesota Wild mention.
What the hell are you going to manufacture today? It's another cricket day.
How are we taking a break from trying to sign the best player to ever play for the Wild?
Well, because
we're just taking a break, taking a snooze.
Well, there's nothing they can do.
In a couple weeks.
Is he back from Russia yet? I mean, they can't negotiate with him, although I don't know where his agent
phones?
is. Yeah, well, they do. Well, I hope they do. Yeah.
Zoom calls not exist in Russia?
I'm trying not to get to your panic mode quite yet. I think there's always going to be plenty of time to actually legitimately panic. I'm not sure we're there yet, but let's face it. Every day that goes by, regardless of the reason, adds to the significant, oh my God, it's happening to us again. Like it always does, it seems. It adds to that. I can't blame people for assuming the worst, even if I think it's a little early to assume the worst. I can't necessarily blame folks, and the only way that it changes is when the big announcement comes, and then we'll probably have to overpay for him, and he's going to end up playing 50 games next year.
At least
out of 84.
At least it'll be done.
Yeah.
Speaking of thinking of the worst, the Twins, they played yesterday, a late one if you stayed up. They lose 5-2 to the Dodgers. Shohei was on the mound, so that was the end of that. They go again today at 9:10. Woods Richardson on the mound for the Twins. There's not much to talk about.
Well, Ohtani gives up a first-inning dong to Buxton.
Yes.
But because he's Ohtani, he says, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll come to the plate, and I'll hit a 2-run home run, nullifying what I gave up to you. You can't make it up. He did not. I think he only pitched 3 innings. He was not great. I didn't see it, but my sources say it was a devastating finish that Correa has a chance to tie it at the buzzer with 2 out in the 9th. It's a fly ball to straightaway center that goes all the way to the wall and is brought back in. It would have at least extended the game to the bottom of the 9th. That would have tied it. So we're not particularly good, and it sounds as if we're not particularly lucky either. We now have, I think there's now 6 teams in front of us for the 3rd wild card. I'm not mistaken. I know it's 5. I think it now might be 6, which is why the fact that the number of games out is 4 or 5 games doesn't really mean that much to me. Like, it's only 4 or 5 games. Because it's not just the number of games, it's now the number of teams that you're dealing with there. And these are often teams that are playing one another. So maybe the beauty of this is it can put the Twins out of their misery quickly here. And because, the Dodgers have been struggling. I think the Dodgers went into last night having lost 10 out of 12. They get it done last night. What did you say the matchup was tonight? I think it's
Woods Richardson.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we actually played I guess to an extent, a fairly entertaining game. We squandered a lot of opportunities earlier, and then in the end, we're not particularly lucky as well. And we get to see their pitcher give up a home run, and that same pitcher hit a home run as well.
All I'll say is if you lose a series to the Rockies, it's hard for me to justify putting you in the top 5.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Hey, the Vikings, everyone's reporting. They're putting out the tweets. I just saw a video of some players walking in the TCO. It's exciting stuff. The Vikings are bringing in linebacker Jahab Ward for a visit today. He played all 17 games last season for Minnesota. His 19 career sacks. Wasn't great, but he's here for a visit. That's the latest from TCO.
Yeah, it sounds as if it was a boring day of press conferences because there's really not a lot of controversies with this team. And one of the, I think, for me, compelling storylines that we've not spent as much time on, except for earlier today with Seifert, is we've all said, okay, a new quarterback, you got to give him a minute to figure it out, even if we think he's the greatest thing ever. I don't think Vikings fans are going to be all that patient, and because I just think that's human nature. But I also think there's the question of, well, how do we grade the head coach on a curve? Because he's having to work with a quarterback who is new and inexperienced, et cetera. And I kind of agree with Seifert. I mean, who basically said, well, no, not really, because you've got a lot of good people around this quarterback. You've got a team coming off a very good record. You also have, I think, the more important question in terms of how the head coach should be fairly evaluated is on what he asks this quarterback to do, right? It's the age-old question. Do you ask your QB to do too much too soon? Or do you give him the tools to ease into the position? Should be the latter, right? And it should be easier for the Vikings to cling to the latter, for the head coach to commit to the latter, because it looks like he's got now 2 legitimate running backs. It looks like the offensive line on paper, certainly the interior part, should be improved. We're going to go more 2 tight end set, which might mean, again, if not running all the time, might mean a little bit more controlled passing. So all of those things, I think, are the proper way to evaluate this head coach. If the head coach is stubborn about we're just going to fling it, even though it's the new guy, then I think you can grade pretty harshly on that, because that's part of what a quarterback whisperer is supposed to do. He's supposed to give his new quarterback the best chance to succeed. And that means never, it's not like he's never supposed to ask him to throw the ball downfield, but it's also to mix and match with a team that has spent the entire offseason saying what? We want to become more physical, more like the Detroit Lions in that way. We want to become more of a presence and less finesse. We've talked about the finesse aspect to this team for the last several years as something that needed to be improved upon. Vikings now finally agree with us, and the question is whether they will follow through on that. I think those are all fair questions, and we'll have a chance to talk to KFC directly from the perch. He's going to join us on Thursday. I'm sure we'll check in with Seifert, maybe with Ben Gessling. You never know who else might show up at our first day out at training camp. I think several shows might even be out there tomorrow. Because tomorrow, I think, is the first main day of a football practice as well.
I believe PA and Common both out there.
Yeah, I think you're right.
More Vikings news. Justin Jefferson was recently interviewed by Yahoo Sports. He had a couple of interesting quotes.
Okay.
He said, quote, "Yes, especially with the season that we had last year, to go and play away, it definitely was a little different." He goes on to say, "It definitely needs to go into consideration, something that we need to figure out, because having 14 wins, we normally don't go play away in the playoffs."
Oh, I see.
Now he then goes to say later on that we had our chance and we could have beat Detroit and we would have been the 1 seed. So he's not fully blaming the system.
Okay.
He is acknowledging it, going little Pelth mode on it, but he is saying, maybe it's a conversation we need to have.
Well, it was an unusual set of circumstances. In a perfect world, you win that many games, you shouldn't have to fall all the way to 5. On the other hand, I don't know that I'm big on changing the whole division system. I think it happens rarely enough that I'm not all that concerned with it. I think the key to this is unraveling the mystery about how you succeed in the playoffs, which this administration really hasn't done. We've had some very good regular seasons. It feels like they're well managed. It feels like they're well put together on a number of fronts, but we just have not seen any kind of, playoff momentum at all. And sooner or later, that's how you're going to be judged. And I think they're going to be judged tough this year, even with the kid quarterback. I really do. I think Vikings fans who say, I'm in this for the long haul and I'll be fine and I'll be patient if we finish 9-8 this year or take a step back, I don't believe you. I think, and I'm not even sure the Vikings organization would feel all that good about that, given how ambitious they've been in free agency. And I think maybe how encouraged they should be about what this defense might be like if it maintains and or is able to take another significant step.
I think if you're going to do that, you just have to go NFC and AFC seeds 1 through 8 make it, and everyone else doesn't.
Yeah, and then but then you're doing away basically with the division system.
Pretty much.
And maybe you should. I don't know. I mean, what's weird, like in the NBA, technically there's division stuff that I don't think anybody pays attention to anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Right? It just ends up being conference stuff. Although there is, I think in the NBA there's still something to winning your division. But regardless, I don't think you need to reinvent the wheel on this thing. Just play better, I would say, at the end of the season. It didn't go very well for your favorite team. Yeah. No, my favorite team, not yours.
The NFL is the only one that I like the divisions, but NHL, get rid of that thing.
You're ready to get rid of that too?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's several different pass rushing contract controversies, and there's two different ways to go about it. And so we're going to cover both of them here in this last item. So the first way is to hold out, to go to Jacksonville, Florida, I think, or maybe just somewhere in Florida.
Yes.
And that's what Trey Hendrickson is doing at the Cincinnati Bengals. No one alienates their players more than the Cincinnati Bengals.
It's uncanny.
It is. I mean, they just got an indoor practice facility like last year.
Right.
They're the last team to do it.
Somebody said part of the mistake they made is they waited too long, and now they're paying for some other, they're forced to deal with spending more money if they want the player, because in the interim, several others have signed to big contracts that has an impact on his. So it doesn't look like a very good situation. And frankly, we were talking about this with Seifert earlier. The average Rube tends to root against the player being too greedy and for the owner. But I think in this case, because of that organization's history and because of the particulars in this situation, I think there's more casual fans who might actually be on the player's side. What was the other one you had?
Well, Micah Parsons is the other one.
Right.
So Hendrickson will not report. He's in Florida. He told Schefter directly, apparently, so pretty good source there. But Micah Parsons will report, or did report, but that's more of a hold in where it's actually, I take that back. It's not clear whether or not Parsons will take part in practice, say that 5 times fast, when the Cowboys begin today.
Okay, yeah, so that's the other big one, as you mentioned, and what's weird about the Cowboys is they're so top heavy with a number of huge contracts, and yet, well, they had 3 straight 12-5 seasons before last year, and then last year they were under 500. I think it missed the playoffs. But they haven't. It's another team where you go, well, you got all this, you spent all this money on these players who I guess individually you have no choice but to sign based on their own individual achievements if you want to keep the team together. And on the other hand, there's a part of me that says, yeah, but what's that led to? You really, what are the playoff runs that the Dallas Cowboys have been involved with? And the answer is not very many lately, not about as many as the Vikings.
Pretty much, but it's their year. It's their year this year.
That might be.
Yeah, there you have it.
Might very well be. Are you okay with your second in terms of percentage chance to win the division behind the Lions?
No, that's fine.
The ESPN analytics, you're okay? You're not offended by that?
No, I'm not. I do think the Lions will regress. I think the question is how much. Is it just a little bit? Is it a couple wins off? Or are they really... Because I felt Ben Johnson was, especially after watching quarterback, seemed like he was the brains of that whole operation over there.
He's good. That's the question there. Both new offensive and defensive coordinators. They got a lot of talent, though. Mm-hmm. And they're getting some injured people back. Who's the Michigan defensive lineman they get back from injury, too? So... Yeah. They have a chance in some ways to be even better. It just seems to me they got a lot of players. They're very well put together in terms of drafting, acquiring talent, et cetera, et cetera.
I can shoehorn in a Packers one. Do you want me to do that?
Go ahead. You got
Zach Tom. Yeah. Extension. I think it was a 4-year deal. I don't have the numbers in front because I wasn't ready for it, but that's one of our best linemen, one of the best tackles.
Okay. I can never have too many linemen.
Top 10 tackle. Yeah. They've made a career off of that. So we got him out of the way, and now it seems like the GM of the Pack, when the offseason started, said, we need a sense of urgency. Like, now it's time. Like, Love's our guy. Let's go. And it seems like I was critical at first, but it seems like he's drafting wide receivers in the first round. Yeah. He's extending and signing new offensive linemen.
He's doing all the things that you wanted him to do, that Aaron Rodgers wanted him to do when he was still there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's going to work.
Bonus bucks?
The fan and BigDeck.com. I'm going to give you a shot to win bonus bucks to the National Cash Contest. Head to KFAN.com and the keyword money. The keyword money, KFAN.com, keyword money.
Ode to a dead guy in about 15 minutes. Stay tuned. love some text to come in from those heavy metal fans devastated with the news that broke earlier today. Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line is, as always, available to you at 64686. Ozzy Osbourne dying at the age of, what did we determine? Confirmed 76 years old. John Bream will be on that subject with us in just about 10 minutes. So hit the text line if you have things that you want to address. And how big a name is this for those of you who grew up on or appreciate heavy metal? As I said earlier, it's never really been my specialty in any way, shape, or form. But career is huge. There's no doubt about that. Popularity was massive, and then he sort of had this second life on TV as well. So let me know in preparation for Bream coming up, as I said, in about 10 minutes or so. On corn sweat, yes, it's a real thing. This is from Mitch out of Wisconsin. The amount of row crops, corn and soybeans grown now compared to even 20 years ago, but certainly 30 plus, is dramatically greater. In the good old days, many smaller farms had small herds of cattle, and much more hay was raised in order to feed the cattle. Thus, the number of corn acres was far less. I would be happy to discuss corn sweat analytics on air if you wanted. We started the show. It's a very controversial decision. A lot of people were bitter. I had to kind of throw it down with the corn sweat terrorists, because the Star Tribune has a story indicating that the real reason for the added steam factor, dew point, humidity, has to do with it being a corn sweat time of the calendar year when it comes to crops. And we've had a lot of fun with that and a lot of good conversation. Clayton from Rochester writes, fallness is already saturated by the Kirill sweats. Undeniable.
It's what I wake up with.
Yeah, it's like you got like a cold chill, right? You wake up shivering no matter how many blankets you have on, because you've got great fear and loathing about whether we're going to actually get the Kirill deal done, correct? That's the question right now. That's the and I like I said, with the history of this, not necessarily just the franchise, but this marketplace, to a certain extent, I think I can understand all of that. Follow up, by the way, we may get into this subject with Kessler tomorrow. We talked last week about the news that the Colbert, late night Colbert, is it Stephen Colbert show is gone. Well, it's not gone yet, but it's going to be in its final year, and it's canceled, and they're canceling the whole franchise, really, the late night franchise, which for those of us who grew up on late night TV in various forms, it is it's a changing of the guard. There's not any question about that. And some of this is, there's a number of, I think in the end we're going to learn there's a number of things that might have contributed to the decision, not the least of which was, even though the show among the late night shows, the past news shows was still the most popular, the numbers, just people's viewing habits continue to change. And, you know, the era I grew up in, obviously there were, I don't know, Chicago area, there were a couple of independent stations, but then there was the ABC affiliate, the NBC affiliate, the CBS affiliate, and then a couple of what they call in the business UHF channels. And that's it. So you don't really have that many, you don't have as many choices. There's no such thing as streaming then. And so after the news, late night TV, obviously starting but not ending with Carson, was automatic. I mean, it was just, it was just sort of part of the deal. So habits have changed, and the numbers, the finances have changed. These shows are still very expensive to produce and to put together, and they are making less money. Even that show, which was the most popular, even though its own popularity is not what it was, still the most popular, is just not generating as much money, and so it becomes easier for networks to continue to make the kinds of changes they make. Now, I've said for years, this isn't really anything new, that I've lost the thread with late night TV for a while. This is even before Trump. I felt it was on. It didn't offend me that there was a bit more political commentary. Why would that offend me? I mean, we have political commentary on this show. But what did start to bore me was I thought it was all too predictable. I didn't think it was equal opportunity. I didn't think there was quite as much of an appetite to satirize the left side of the political aisle as there was the right side. And so I felt like I always knew what I was going to hear. And so it became so heavy-handed that I just chose to watch other things or read a book or do any number of other things rather than watch late night. I'm never comfortable. You know, one of the theories being offered is that one of the real reasons is that that this was an attempt for the network to kind of placate those who felt that the show was too critical of the current administration. I don't want to see any of the show get canceled on that basis. That makes me nervous. It should make you nervous whether you're a shark or a jet, because it's a bad precedent to set. I don't know that was the case here. It may have contributed to some of it, but my issue wasn't that I ever felt like, get it off there. You need to get it out of there. His voice should be silenced. I'm not a big silencing voices guy. I'm going to criticize those voices if I feel that's what is warranted in a given situation. If we'll ever know ultimately this story, I'm not exactly sure. But I do think that there reaches a point where I don't think people, even if you go back to the Carson days, there was a show that Jack Parr used to do. There were even some other shows that got a little bit more. Dick Cavett got pretty political and had some success too. I think, to me, it was just the one note. Who was the guy from Comedy Central? Who's the comedian who hosted?
Jon Stewart.
Jon Stewart is a good example. Jon Stewart, I don't know, maybe would deny he's a lefty. But I think eventually, especially when he came back the second time, Jon Stewart has had what some people call the sense of irony, the sort of the willingness to tweak his own side of the political aisle at least once in a while. In fact, he did it on Colbert. It was one of the most uncomfortable moments in the history of that show. Colbert didn't know what to do. And that's the difference. I think Bill Maher historically is a lefty. There's not any question about that. Now, some people think he has changed, some for the better, some for the worst. But the fact is, Maher has a sense of irony. Maher is able to look his own party in the mirror and occasionally tweak and occasionally push back. And that, to me, is what's missing. Somebody had a poll out, would you like to see Colbert replace Maher on HBO? I hope to God, no. No, I have no interest in that, because I don't want to see a program as predictable on HBO as I have seen on CBS. Not going to do me. And my guess is he'd probably be even more predictable out of stubbornness because of bitterness about why he perceived he was let off the air at CBS. So we'll see where all that stuff is going. It's definitely worthy of some time. Our next guest is going to talk not so much about TV as music. Our very own Ode to a Dead Guy will be with the help of a longtime Star Tribune music critic, John Bream, and he will join us in just a minute here in the Fan.
And now, it's time for Ode to a Dead Guy.
Story breaking earlier today that Ozzy Osbourne has died at the age of, 76 years old. John Bream has covered popular music at the Star Tribune for pretty much ever, as far as I can remember. I think 50 years or close to it. And he's kind enough to join us today via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. Welcome back to the program. Thanks again for the time, as always. So when I say the name Ozzy, what's the first thing that kicks into your head?
I would say that Ozzy is a true legend. a word that's overused, but I would say he was dangerous, demonic, and a great actor, because for him it was all theater.
And was it always that way? Did it evolve into that? Did he stumble into it, or was it all very conscious with him?
Well, I think at first he was just crazy, and then he eventually stumbled into it. But I interviewed him in '84. He, when he was sort of at the height of his solo career, and he talked about how it was very much theater for him. That he was a different guy. He was John Osborne off stage, and he was this character Ozzy Osbourne on stage.
And did he enjoy the character?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he played it to the hilt. People are always going to remember, he bit the head off of a live dove at a record company meeting in '81, and then the next year in the Midwest here in Des Moines, he bit the head off of a bat that a kid had thrown on stage. So, people are going to remember the weird stuff, but they're also going to remember the guy who was on the Osbournes, the television show.
Yeah, that's it.
And that just showed him to be, the heavy metal Ozzy and Harriet.
We'll get to that chapter in a minute, because it is a fascinating twist of his career. Tell me, this is probably not going to surprise you. I was never a big heavy metal guy. I'm not denying its significance. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It just never really spoke to me. So give me the music side of what Black Sabbath established, what it copied, what sort of where in the heavy metal continuum, what is Black Sabbath's place?
Well, they're a pioneer. And for me, one of the differences, a lot of other bands, say Led Zeppelin, had blues roots. Mm-hmm. Black Sabbath just rocked without blues roots. And so that makes a difference. To me, Zeppelin was rock and roll. Black Sabbath was rock, heavy metal. And it was loud. It was grinding. It felt dangerous and felt very edgy.
When you mentioned you interviewed him, what else stands out about that conversation? I mean, how was he odd? Do you feel like he had to play the part when he's talking to you, or not so much?
Well, one thing that stands out, I wish I would have had closed caption to understand what he was saying, because he had such a thick accent. He was a character. I remember him. I interviewed him in the limo, and I interviewed him at the hotel, and he was wearing a full-length fur coat. We were in Chicago. It was winter, so I could understand it. And I was struck by the fact how he was able to separate what he did on stage from who he was off stage. And we got a better understanding of that, obviously, when we saw the Osbourne.
Did he feel like because of the act that people almost expected him to stay with the act, whether he was on stage or not?
Oh, yeah. I think that was part of his persona. And the other thing is, he was the king of excess. So he indulged in drugs, he indulged in alcohol, he went through treatment many times. And he was just crazy, and he took pride in being crazy. And, when you're younger like that, you're immortal, right?
Yeah,
You're
sure.
going to be able to do that forever. And it eventually caught up with him.
Well, what was his, I guess he has said, I was reading some stuff, today, that, and this often is the case, that for Osbourne, for that generation, musically, it was about the Beatles, right? That he liked, I don't know how many other folks in popular music heard a Beatles song, and in his case, I think it was "She Loves You," and that was it. It's like, okay, I know what I want to be.
Yeah, and he was this rube from Birmingham, a real industrial town. He dropped out of school, even did time for some petty theft, burglary. He spent, I think, 6 months in jail. And he just joined a band with a guy named Geezer Butler, who was the bass player. And Geezer was the one that wrote the lyrics for Black Sabbath. Ozzy was the one who sang them.
What are his other musical contributions to the group?
He was a singer.
He's the singer.
You know,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know if he had the concept
Mm-hmm.
for the songs, but he was the singer, and he had this amazing voice that was kind of scary, and you always wondered, like, did it really sound like that?
Yeah.
You know, because in the studio, it just had kind of this eerie feeling to it. And I think I read once, sometime they said, well, he was singing through an oscillating fan, which gave it this weird edge to it.
Is there, and when it comes to heavy metal, I mean, are they on their own plateau? Are they there with two or three other groups? Give us some perspective on him and Black Sabbath regarding the whole heavy metal genre, where they fit in.
People consider them the first heavy metal band. You know, they call Ozzy the godfather of metal. You know, were they the best band? No. I think Metallica was better. I think Led Zeppelin was better. But they were first, and so they were the pioneers, so they get the credit. And even the show that he did on July 5th, back at the beginning, he played a show in Birmingham, his hometown, and they brought kind of all the progeny of Black Sabbath showed up. So it was like Metallica and Slayer and Alice in Chains and Tool, Pantera, all these bands that you don't know. And then Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine put together an all-star group, even got Steven Tyler to come and sing. And then Ozzy sang a little bit with his band, his solo band, and then he sang with the original Black Sabbath at the end. He was sitting in a chair, black throne, of course.
His health was not very good down the stretch, correct?
No, he had Parkinson's, which he announced, I think it was 2019 when he announced it.
I'm looking at, often referred to as the godfather of heavy metal. Osbourne preferred his other title, the Prince of Darkness. Here's the quote that got my attention. This is from an interview in 2013. I have never, ever, ever been able to attach myself to the word heavy metal. It has no musical connotations. If it was heavy rock, I could get that, but the 70s was kind of like a bluesy thing. The 80s was kind of bubblegum frosted hair, multicolored clothes, and the 90s was kind of grungy. So I guess from that, it means he didn't particularly like the term heavy metal.
Well, artists usually don't like the terms that the industry or journalists put on the genre that they belong to.
He gets fired from Black Sabbath, I think, in 79. They'd already made a bunch of albums together, and he's got significant alcohol and drug use. Do we know much about how difficult and challenging and sordid and angry it got during that, the breakup?
Well, he overslept and missed a gig in Nashville. So how do you do a show without your lead singer? It's very frustrating. And I'm sure there were other issues of his attendance and his maybe sloppiness. So the other guys in the band fired him. That was 79. And they continued on with a variety of different singers over the years. They recruited Ronnie James Dio from Rainbow. They had Ian Gillan from Deep Purple at one point. So the guys in Black Sabbath were determined to continue on without Ozzy. And then he started a solo career the year after he got kicked out of Black Sabbath. And his solo career did extremely well.
That's what I was going to say. So was the music the same? Did it change in any significant way? I think he did 11 albums solo before he got back together.
I think it was less heavy. There was certainly room for ballads. I mean, he had Close Your Eyes with Lita Ford was his only top 10 hit in 1989, and that was a ballad. But his big hit was Crazy Train. I don't know if you ever watched the TV show. That was the theme for the TV show.
Yes, I did.
And it's not as, for lack of a better description, not as heavy as the Black Sabbath stuff.
You mentioned the second chapter, which is this wildly successful reality TV show, which I did get into. I got into that a lot more, at least for a period, more than I did his music. So do we know how that got established? Who was the genius who figured out this has a chance to be something notable that people will watch?
I don't know for sure, but I would bet it was probably his wife, Sharon.
Mm-hmm.
she's very clever and resourceful, and somehow kept him going and kept him alive all these years, because he wasn't always in very good health. I mean, she at one point came up with this great idea. When he wanted to play Lollapalooza in the 90s, they reached out to Lollapalooza, and Lollapalooza said, no thanks, Ozzy. So he went and formed his own touring festival, Ozfest. And that ran for, I don't know, close to 20 years. Played the Twin Cities a few times. And, you know, it really kind of rejuvenated his career and gave him a feeling of that he still mattered.
Looking at one of his quotes, this is in a 2011 documentary called God Bless Ozzy Osbourne. Looking back, I should have died 1,000 times but never did, right? He represents the classic, like you say, rocker who you say, how is he still going, right? How is he still alive? How is it even possible on the basis of everything that he seemed to put into his nose and his veins, etc., and his body? How is he possibly still around?
Luck, maybe, and his wife took good care of him. I don't really know. I mean, he managed to survive, and it's rare considering how much he abused himself.
Why was the show so entertaining, you think? What made the show work, the TV show?
Oh, because it was over the top and it was crazy theater. Mm-hmm. You know, and he's lots of energy, and he was crazy, and he wasn't graceful, but he just managed to command your attention. You know, he didn't have the sort of theatrical flair that Alice Cooper had. Ozzy was just sort of this kind of oaf, you know, running around stage, you know, waving his hand, shaking his hair, and he was just, there was something lovable about him.
I agree.
Even though everyone thought, you know, the guy's crazy and he's demonic, there was something lovable about him.
In the show, there was.
I think we got to see that in the Osbournes.
There's no question. There's no question. He wasn't ominous in that show at all. He was, in an odd sort of way, quirky but lovable. It's 100%. Almost, I felt like there were times in the show where it was about him, but it was almost like he was a spectator observing all this stuff flying around him that was really all revolved around him, but it was almost like he was a spectator through the whole thing. I don't even know how to explain it, but it had a very interesting air.
Well, like I said earlier, it was the Ozzy and Harriet of heavy metal. If you remember back to Ozzy and Harriet, Ozzy really didn't have a major role in the show.
Right.
It was all about the kids and the wife. And I think in the case of the Osbournes, it was quite the same.
John from Playa Vista, California writes, Dan, a mixed tape of Black Sabbath and solo Ozzy Osbourne created an incredible soundtrack to my life. I especially resonated with the song Road to Nowhere, the story every woman who dated me in my 20s lived. Attended the Black Sabbath concert at Target Center when Pantera and a very early Incubus was emerging. Long live the Prince of Darkness. Thank you for that interview, John Bream. Any thoughts?
Well, it's good to hear. I mean, people really bought into Ozzy. They really did. And you know what, Dan? I forgot to mention two local angles.
Really?
Because we always look for the Minnesota
We love
angle,
them, absolutely.
Right? So the first song that Black Sabbath ever recorded was Evil Woman, which was a song by Crow, the Twin Cities band.
Oh.
From the 60s.
Okay.
And the other note, you know the Road Warriors, the wrestling group?
Yes.
Hawk and Animal?
Mm-hmm. I do.
Remember them?
I do, absolutely.
Yeah. Their theme song was Iron Man by Black Sabbath.
There it is.
When they'd come into the ring, they would play Iron Man.
So it's our story, as it turns out.
Well, there were two local guys
who
became big stars in wrestling, and they took Sabbath with them.
Dr. Phil writes from St. Michael, I remember hearing about Ozzy biting the head off that bat. Growing up in a strange way, I was proud. That was one thing we Iowans had. It was our state where he bit the head off the bat, and the Fill in the Blanks concert was in the old Veterans Memorial Auditorium, also the site of high school boys and girls basketball tournaments. Oh, the memories. Everybody's looking for how they can connect their hometown, their home state to this story.
I was reading earlier in USA Today has a report from Des Moines about that concert.
Is that right?
Yeah. They even mentioned the kid that brought the bat and threw it in his freezer or something and thought it was dead, and just threw it on stage because he was a goof,
And he really did bite the head off the bat? I mean, that's not apocryphal. It happened.
Then he had to get rabies shots for several weeks.
He did?
Oh,
my God.
Yeah. And I mean, to show you how crazy he was, when I interviewed him, he was about to do the first gig since he swallowed or bit on some glass. It wasn't intentional in this case. He was filming a video, I think, over in London, and they were using a real mirror instead of a fake mirror. And the thing was they were going to break the mirror, and some of the glass from the mirror apparently got in his mouth and cut him. And so he had to take a few days off, and when I interviewed him in Chicago, that was going to be his first day back. And, so you ask him about all these crazy things, and he confirms them.
Did he ever, I mean, the question is, I think, do you ever, when that's your bit, do you ever did Ozzy ever get tired of it? Did he even, he obviously made him a lot of money, but is there a point where you just, God, I don't want to have to perform in that way. It's showbiz. It's not really me. I don't want to do it.
I mean, I think he understood that early. Maybe not in the early Black Sabbath days, but I think in his solo career, he understood that it was totally showbiz. I'll read you a quote from the interview I did in '84. People take Ozzy too seriously. It's a role that I play. It's like Vincent Price acts Dracula. He doesn't go home in a hearse. I've created a monster.
That's pretty good.
Which is so hard for me to say. I ain't really like that. I'm only a show. Do people think Superman really flies? I haven't mellowed. I've always been this way.
Do you agree with this observation from another texter? Ozzy was to hard rock what Michael Jackson was to pop, B.B. King was to blues, what Dolly is to country. Is that fair? Is that too grandiose?
Yeah, I don't know if I put Dolly in there or Michael Jackson because they weren't the first at what they did, whereas Ozzy was really a pioneer. B.B. King wasn't the first, but he was certainly one of the first to help popularize blues on a mass basis.
Mark wants to know what your favorite Black Sabbath song is.
Iron Man.
It is Iron Man. Okay, he likes War Pigs and Paranoid.
Those are two good songs.
Also, texter from the 651 area code wants to share an Ozzy memory. I was at First Avenue for a replacement show in or around 1985. We were waiting on the sidewalk to get in, as was customary, and Ozzy was at the Music Land on Hennepin Avenue for an in-store appearance. I can still picture the stream of screaming metalheads running down the street and chasing his limousine as it drove away. You weren't there, were you?
No, I wasn't.
One more.
But that sounds like fun.
Yeah, it does sound like fun.
And it definitely sounds like Ozzy fan.
Todd writes, in thinking about Ozzy, a Hunter S. Thompson quote comes to mind. There he goes, one of God's own prototypes, a high-powered mutant of some kind, never even considered for mass production. Too weird to live and too rare to die. Hunter S. Thompson. That's pretty good.
That captures Ozzy.
That's pretty apt, too. I assume you're writing this for tomorrow, or is it already in? Is it already at StarTribune.com?
I'm actually off this week, so
what?
I'm not writing this.
Well, you can't. You can't be off. Well, there's no off time when a music legend passes on. You're required. Isn't that in your contract for Star Tribune? You have to give it its proper due.
Well, we have another music critic, so he's going to pick up the story.
Okay. You don't feel guilty or anything?
He's way more of a metalhead than I am.
Oh, that's okay. That's a good excuse. So you don't feel any remorse or guilt whatsoever?
No.
Any other deaths we need to talk about today?
Not that I'm aware of. But yeah, they seem to go in threes, don't they? So
they do. And there's too many of them, man. Don't you think? Yeah. There's too many of them these days.
I mean, Malcolm Jamal Warner.
Yeah, how about that?
That was bad.
That's a very sad story. Yeah, for sure. 100%. Well, then we're even more honored that you were willing to join us on your off time. So thanks for helping us out today on short notice, and we'll keep in touch with Viking season just around the corner. As you know, I know you can't wait.
I can't wait. Can't wait for the state fair either.
Oh, that's right. That's around the corner too. Yeah, we'll see you there. Thanks, John.
All right, thank you.
Be good. John Bream, music critic for the Star Tribune on the news. Kind of our version of Ode to a Dead Guy today through John Bream. Ozzy Osbourne has died at the age of 76 years old. Tony writes, Ozzy was the front man. Tony wrote all the music. True pioneers. They literally invented something new. Hard to do and completely original. Maybe get to a couple more texts on Ozzy and get to a couple of other items in the final 30 minutes of today's edition of the Bumper to Bumper program. Don't go away.
All of America's mystery cards are back, and we're bringing them to you all summer long. Come grab yours at KFAN events throughout the summer and wherever you find our KFAN street team. Then be sure to redeem them at Mall of America for fun prizes and big discounts. See full list of events, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
763 guy writes, John Bream's monotone deadpan delivery gets me every time. Me too. That's the beauty of it. Become a source of much entertainment for me on this particular program. Remind me, I hope, I don't know whether JJ McCarthy is going to go down this road at his first press conference, because I don't think he's had one yet since training camp is beginning. I hope he does not go down the Caleb Williams road. Caleb, of course, is the second-year quarterback for the Chicago Bears, new head coach, new quarterback whisperer, blah, blah, blah. Here's the headline on Caleb's presser today. Williams sets 4,000 passing yards, 70% completion rate as 2025 personal goals. And I get what he's trying to do. By the way, the Bears have never had a 4,000-yard passer in their history, which makes it notable. And obviously 70% completion helps. Last year he was only at 62%, threw for 3,540 yards. Why mess with those numbers? If you're a young quarterback, I resort to the cliches. I say, I get it. 70% is a great benchmark. 4,000 yards is a great benchmark. But you know what I want to do? I want to win. I want to make the plays that need to be made to help us win games instead of losing them. That's trite. You could say it's a cliche. But I would find that much more compelling. I don't care about yardage. I really don't. I don't think Caleb Williams should care. Now, again, in Chicago, it's hard to get to 4,000 yards. It's never happened. It's not even news in most places, including here. But I think we just get too hung up on those sorts of, and I know there's some advanced analytics that help us understand in any sport how good a player is. And I know in baseball, there's the WAR number, and there's stuff that can help us. Oh, that's why he's that good. Or here's what he does that makes him that valuable, or she. But I don't think Vikings fans should care about that. I really don't. I think we go through this in basketball a lot. What's a guy's handle? What's in his bag of tricks? Can he break an ankle? The obsession with stuff that, in the end, I don't think often has that much to do with winning or losing is weird to me. It's curious. And again, in football, obviously the best quarterbacks have to be able to throw in key situations. We'll all agree on that. There's no doubt about that. And you could say, well, if you do that enough, the numbers are going to show that's proving why he's as good as he is at the position that he's playing. But I don't think individual players should get all that hung up on it. I don't think fans should get hung up on it. In a given game, we all know the better cliche is most close games, there's about a handful, maybe a half a dozen plays that are going to make the difference between winning and losing. And you want your quarterback to make a higher percentage of those plays successfully than the other quarterback. Or in your case, at the expense of the other team's defense. That interests me a lot more. I just want somebody, I don't care how pretty they look. I don't care how much of a cannon of an arm somebody has. I just want accuracy in the clutch. And I want, let's face it, and I don't think, again, this is necessarily a function of yardage. It's what in the business we call the off-schedule plays, right? It was a good play call, but it got busted up by a good defense. Now, can you make something out of what looks to be like a tenuous situation? And really, that's the other separator, right? Usually 7 or 8 of those plays, too. No matter how well the play is called, something happens to screw it up or somebody doesn't execute it properly. Well, instead of making it 2nd and 17 because you get sacked for a 7-yard loss, can you complete a pass for 4? Can you scramble for 5? Can you find something else in the broken field that ends up being a 25-yard play? Whatever. Those interest me a lot more than yardage. Now, I guess you could say percentage, the way the league is set up now, you almost are required to have a very high completion percentage. But even that, I think, depends on what kinds of passes the coach is asking you to make, right? So I hope he doesn't get in. I don't think he will. My guess is he won't. But I just kind of rolled my eyes when I saw those numbers. Plus, then, again, if you're Caleb Williams, you kind of set yourself up, right? It's just I want to have a higher percentage of good plays that I make where I don't screw up the play, where I don't bail out too soon, where I try to, not be afraid to take the 4-yard play on 1st and 10 rather than take the 7-yard sack because I'm waiting for something huge to happen. Those interest me a lot more than any of these individual benchmark numbers of this proves that you're really you're really effective as a quarterback. Just make the right play at the right, and quite frankly, McCarthy's strength in Michigan was that, right? Because he wasn't asked to run a high-powered, throw the ball 52 times a game offense, right? And that's why some have been skeptical about what he could do as a pro. McCarthy, though, was just one of those guys who seemed to make the right play, including some big pass completions on 3rd down in key situations on a team that admittedly was not, didn't have a lot of, I don't think Michigan had a bunch of, 3rd and longs. They ran well, they were disciplined, and they kind of, kept ahead of the change in that regard. So to me, that should be, it should be about making enough plays that your team is in position to win. And if that means it's only 64% percentage or you're under 4,000 yards, I don't give a damn. I just like to see us emphasize those things a little bit more. And because, we're in a stat heavy culture, sports culture, obviously, right? We got 1 million regular stats and then we got the analytic stats. Do you care about Jordan Love, how fancy it looks? You just want Jordan Love in the key moments in a game to make the right decision in real time, get the ball accurately to the right place at the right time, and not necessarily whether he's finished the game with 426 yards passing, correct?
Yeah, I don't care if it's off the back foot, if it lands in the hands, who cares? If it's a touchdown, it's still worth 6 points. So yeah, I agree.
I think your guy Ben Johnson thinks he's the smartest guy in the room from what I've gathered. Seems brash and arrogant, and then maybe that rubs off on Caleb in these quotes. He does have a little of that in him, but then again, that's what a lot of these coaches believe they have to bring in when they come to a new place, and he might be that good. Ben Johnson, you're in love with him on the basis of what you saw via quarterback. He seems to be a very talented offensive mind. He seems to be also, like our guy, a quarterback whisperer. Now, the test is, as a head coach, is it different because you're in a different role. And you're going to have more questions. You're going to be peppered with more questions than you were as coordinator. So can you handle the burden of being in charge of everything? That's a very fair question that I think Double T said it once upon a time. Only time will tell, Davey. That's on any of these, including our guy, JJ. Not Justin Jefferson, but JJ McCarthy, I should say, as well. No bonus bucks for this half hour, correct? After 6. So what we're going to do is review a very eclectic show today. We had 3 guests bringing all very different things to today's program. I'm going to give you a couple of the highlights from each of those appearances. I also want to prepare you for what we have coming up the rest of this week. And then we'll prepare you for, I'm assuming, Fan and the Man in the Air at 6:30.
Some Lynx basketball as well.
It's Lynx basketball? They're back tonight?
6:45 pregame.
Without Meesman. The Belgian superstar ends up going to the New York club, New York Liberty. The rich get richer. A devastating development, I think, for the Lynx. I don't know if we've had any reaction yet from the head coach, but I'm very curious to hear of it. Come back and wrap up the program next.
It's the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
And it's brought to you by American Pressure.
Eclectic mix of guests today. If you missed earlier in the show at a little after 4, we were joined by longtime local television reporter Caroline Lowe, who, well, she's been out of this market for a while, but she was in the market for literally decades. Channel 4 most of the time, I think Care 11 eventually as well. And she's become very closely aligned with the Jody Huisentruit story. She disappeared as a rising TV news anchor from her Iowa apartment 30 years ago. I think the actual anniversary was just at the end of last month. And she's been very visible lately, has Caroline Lowe, because of her interest in this particular story and because Hulu's got a new documentary on the case that has never been solved. And so we reviewed the case. She reminded us of her own experiences in covering this case and tried to bring a little bit of new information to it as well. That was between 4 and 4:30 this afternoon. Kevin Seifert joined early today, about 3:15. And we obviously talked a little bit of corn sweat. And then we talked a lot of Vikings and the ongoing preparation for training camp, the injury issues facing this club that are actually pretty promising at this point, including our starting left tackle, Christian Darrisaw. And we kind of try to set the stage for the opening of our first practice, I think, is tomorrow. We're going to be out there on Thursday, and we may, in fact, be joined by Seifert on a Thursday as well. So that was about 3:15, earlier than usual. And then Ode to a Dead Guy with John Bream on the death of Ozzy Osbourne. That was between 5:30 and 6 this evening. 612 guy writes, I produced a Super Bowl ad with Ozzy and Justin Bieber for Best Buy back in 2010. Ozzy was a true pro, amazing to work with. At the time, the incoherent character was a total bit. Between takes, he was very focused and clear in working on new ideas, etc. Bieber loved him, I should say, learned so much from him on set, picked his brain all day. And Sharon was clearly in charge on the business side. They had a great partnership. It was an incredible experience, and he will be missed. John Bream writes, 952 guy is an encyclopedia of music history. He's interviewed everyone for more than 50 years. Bring him on more often. The first-hand stories are awesome. We agree totally, and we are. I think we have definitely gotten into the habit of having Bream on a little bit more than usual, so we're glad that you indeed appreciate him, his contributions to the program. Dan, are you concerned Guardsy is going to get lost in J-Mac's eyes and never return? We're going to be relying on you as a true filter on the quarterback play at training camp. Yeah, we'll do our best to stay level-headed, clear-eyed, shall we speak. I will admit, I think McCarthy's got a chance to be damn good. I do. I liked him before the draft. I liked that they went after him. But as Denny Green once said, the proof's going to be in the pudding.
Go ahead.
Do you know if
Guardsy has his name picked out for What McCarthy's?
Well, we're going right now just with J-Mac.
No, I'm saying, there's Cousins condos.
I see. Good. Well, that's a good question.
I don't know. McCarthy Manor.
I don't think that's been established yet. Maybe we'll do that on Thursday. That's a good idea. That's a good suggestion.
If he gets lost in his eyes, he might.
It's one step at a time for this show. We're still trying to figure out a T-shirt or a ball cap, although I have a couple of new ideas that have been raised that might be of interest, so we'll have to see. So tomorrow we'll be here. Kessler will join us in studio. I got a couple of other ideas up my sleeve as well. And then obviously Thursday, as I said, will be very heavy football. And now there's no looking back. The first preseason game, isn't it like 3 weeks off?
August 9th.
Is it August 9th?
Home against the Texans.
That's nuts.
Can't wait.
So is that a Saturday or a Friday?
That's a Saturday.
So that's got to be 2 weeks from this coming Saturday, right?
Think about it.
Oh, my goodness.
Let's go.
It's unbelievable. Guards will be back Thursday. He's in Vegas, as I said. I think PJ's meeting the Jackals tomorrow. I think Gopher Day is tomorrow. It takes a while because how many teams we got in the Big Ten now? Is it 17, 18, 19? I can't keep track. McCarthy Mansions? That's pretty good. That's not a bad start. McCarthy Mansions.
I like that.
Got good alliteration there. That might make sense. A 3-2-0 guy, Bill Maher, who we were talking about earlier, has never left his position. Both parties moved to the extremes, making him look like center of the road. There's some truth to that. In fact, last time we had Maher on, we talked about that very subject as well. But we'll get into some politics tomorrow with Special K. So you said Lynx basketball returns. Is it right after Fan on Demand, or is it right at 6:30?
So Fan on Demand, 15 minutes. If you missed any of Kevin Seifert, that's what will be on
perfect.
Fan Demand.
That sounds good.
And then 15 minutes later, Lynx pregame.
Who are we playing? Do we know?
We are playing the Chicago Sky.
Oh, another rematch against Angel Reese. I'm going to get the popcorn. Wonder how many rebounds she'll end up with.
Rebounds or me bounds?
That's what they're calling him. Yeah. It's really kind of a misnomer, given she's now shooting 40% from the floor. I just say this, man. If you can average the number of rebounds she averages, she's a good player. You can hate her for whatever, in some cases, let's be honest, racist reasons people do. But and I don't like the drama, but I think there's actually been a little less of that. And we've always said teams in any sport are more willing to accept a higher drama quotient the better you are as a player. And she's a great rebounder. At the very least, she's becoming a little bit better of a scorer as well. So we'll see how that goes in the rematch again tonight. So Blakemore and me tomorrow. Guardsy back with us from training camp on Thursday. Thank you for listening today. Thank you for watching every day. And we will talk to you tomorrow beginning at 3 o'clock from this very location.